Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Doc of Detox show. Today's very special guest is Dr. Howard Fisher. Dr. Howard Fisher is world-renowned in his research and his books. He has written over 20 different books, and these topics vary. Okay, so it makes him very well researched, and when it comes to health, okay, and an awareness of what we need to be aware of for our future and for the future of our children, Dr. Howard Fisher today to try to bring that to you. And you are going to get some of the most important information that you have heard in a long time. I know that you've heard about EMF. I know that you've heard about blue light. I know that you've heard about the invisible creating physical problems. Today is research and information that nobody's heard about before, and you're going to have a better understanding, okay, that cell phone, all right, that connects you to the world is also disconnecting you to your brain, is also disconnecting you from the vital health that you deserve each and every day. So fasten your seatbelt. If you don't wear protection today, then how will you ever respect and honor that beautiful body of yours? Dr. Howard Fisher, just to let you know, has been my friend for China together. We have traveled around the world together. We have traveled to Panama together. We lecture together. And I just want you to know that it is my pleasure and my honor to have him here today.
Thank you for that wonderful prologue to this, and hopefully everyone will learn. Today we're going to talk about an inconvenient truth about a truly convenient technology.
Yeah, and you know what, everybody? You have to understand something. And understand something. When you see the slideshow that Dr. Fisher is presenting today, and you see the scientific data behind it, and fooled, but you're being harvested. And that's what most scientists today and researchers are calling. They're calling this period you are being given technologies, okay? We'll call them artificial intelligence, that are making you not as You want to kick it off?
So basically, today we're going to discuss an inconvenient truth about a that don't know what they don't know. And I was recently in Las Vegas at the Supply Side West. What's coming, what's present, what has been, every supplier to the nutritional industry is there. And on the flight back, a very concerned cabin crew member comes rushing at the aisle, get back to your seat, get back to your seat. And I look, I don't know. Now we're back to Las Vegas, and we land, and on the tarmac, 8 fire engines rush out. It was scrapped, but what I also didn't know was that the cockpit was filled with smoke. That's why I laud you for doing what you do.
The majority of the population, what they know is actually supporting what we would call a beautiful life. The majority of the population, 70 to 90% of their beliefs are targeted to pretend they're giving them health, pretend to giving them the life that they deserve, but undermining their health. Because if it wasn't, why are we in such a mess?
Well, as you know, I agree with that. And that's why I lecture. I lectured the truth about cancer. I've written 20 books. I'm in 12 languages. I've written 4 books on this precise topic. And I've lectured on this topic in Asia, in North America, in Europe, in South America. And so we have to look for the reality to be able to give that reality to those that want to listen. And one of the foremost oncologist in the world, Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee, Sid Mukherjee. He went to Stanford, he went to Oxford, he went to Harvard, he won a Pulitzer Prize for his book, The Emperor of All Maladies. And he says, yet the most potent and common carcinogens known to humans can be bought at every corner store for a few dollars. And when you think about that, isn't it the government's job to protect you? Isn't that something that you would think we would be safe from? But no. And he goes on to further say our bodies, our cells, our genes are thus being immersed in a changing flux of molecules, pesticides, pharmaceutical drugs, plastics, cosmetics, estrogens, food products, hormones, even novel forms of physical and uh, magnetism, radiation. We're affected. We're affected. And some of these will never be carcinogenic. So that reality is shocking. We're nothing more than expressions of protein. Protein production determines what form life takes. That's why people talk about epigenetics, which is any factor that can affect us affects life as we know it. And we're now facing an invisible threat. The gene is a loaded gun, but the environment actually pulls the trigger.
That's something, isn't it? And nobody even realizes that, because we actually don't take a look at what our environment actually entails because everybody's living in it. So, you know what? We've gotten too comfortable, too casual, and we are not questioning authority. And the day that you stop at questioning authority is not a good situation. I mean, I tell people question authority, question me, make sure you question everybody. Do not, for God's sakes, don't trust people. Don't trust them. You don't walk around not trusting, but you at least, investigate, because why? You're investing into yourself every time you investigate what someone says. Because even if they have the best intentions in the world, Howie, all the people that are selling the cell phones, all the people that are selling you things that are toxic and lethal, that don't know better. Like you just said, you don't know what you don't know.
And we're the same. Even when I do a consult, and I do many, many consults, as do you. And I tell people, listen, I'm going to send you information on that. Don't believe me. Look at the information. I'm just sharing the information with you, but the information is all there. And if you want to move forward, let's move forward. And if you don't want to move forward, that's okay, because I don't like to put stress on any of the immune dysfunction situations that I deal with. And let me tell you how bad it's got. And you know that when we look at numbers, the American population is about 325 million. 243 million are clinically overweight or obese. 30.4 million have diabetes. 84 million have prediabetes. Wait a second. That's over 1/3 of the population is either pre-diabetic or diabetic. 60 million have seasonal allergies. 45 million have chronic headaches. Wait, is that a problem? Yeah, it's a problem. 44 million women have osteoporosis. You think about that. That's 1 in 3 adult women have osteoporosis. 120 plus million have heart disease. 54 million have arthritis. 31 million have sinus problems. 25 million have asthma. We're running up a huge number here. Men, 15 million have benign prostatic hypertrophy. Every year, there'll be 1.7 million new cases of cancer. 15 million have cancer already. 12 million can't sleep properly, 6 million have Alzheimer's, 2 million have emphysema, 100,000 people die in a hospital from hospital-caused infections, and the list goes on and on. We haven't even talked about Lyme disease. So, well, the government does not protect you, even warn you about cigarette smoke or glyphosate. Monsanto warn you about the potential dangers from a $2.88 trillion industry.
Well, what about vaping? And now, you know what? We found out that even vaping is worse than smoking. So,
Absolutely.
and do you know that 80% of the children in middle school, so understand everybody watching that if you've got children, there's an 80% chance that your child is vaping and he's not going to show you the vaping device. Why would he? And or she, and understand with all the anxiety and stress that's created and all the anxiety and stress that parents cause on their kids because they have it, because that's what happens, right? It's called passing it down the family line. But what we don't understand is now the government's saying, oh, wait a minute, now vaping's not good, we can't do that in public either because it's more carcinogenic than the smoke from cigarettes.
Absolutely. And you know, it's not like what we're going to go over today isn't known, but people don't know it. And so let's talk about Dr. Deborah Davis, written several books, and she goes, oh, science on the topic remains complicated and it's truly complex, and many of those engaged in the efforts to study the radiation have made up their minds in advance. And there's the top neurosurgeon in Australia, Dr. Vinny Carana, who goes, the link between brain cancer and mobile phones should no longer be taken as a myth. And what most people don't know is the Italian Supreme Court ruled on a case of brain cancer, and they awarded a fellow who came up with the brain cancer significant money. And even the World Health Organization has said cell phone radiation is a possible carcinogen. So, as we say all this, global telecom revenues will reach $3 trillion by 2025. And just the documented evidence is everything that you can think of, from aches, acoustic neuroma, anxiety, blood-brain barrier issues, fibromyalgia, heart attacks, headaches, inflammation everywhere, pain, salivary gland tumors. We'll think about where you're holding a phone, parotid gland tumors, ringing in your ears. Uh, French government, they said school children can't have phones. And the reality is now there's more than 6 billion users of cell phones in a population of 7 billion on the planet. And so we know that the near plume goes right into your head. And so Deborah Davis, again, University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute is where she formerly was, says for such a risk, brain tumors, to show up in cell phone users within 10 years, given what we know about brain tumors, when they have a latency period of 40 years, is deeply, deeply disturbing. And it's not like this is new. In 1973, Dr. Zorak Glaser, working for the U.S. Navy, published a list. And I understand you're having Dr. Magda Havas on. She'll know all about Zorak Glaser. Of over 2,300 documents that show that electromagnetic radiation is indeed dangerous, but what happened to the document? Where did all the papers go? I understand that Dr. Havas may, in fact, have all the papers. And so their attempt to cover up didn't really work. And now we know 5G is coming if it's not already here. And 5G is far more intense than anything we've experienced up to now. And just in August, there was a unanimous decision by the Court of Appeals against the FCC, and the FCC has been having the latitude to say, yeah, we can do what we want, because they were grandfathered into putting towers up wherever they wanted. And if none of you have seen the movie Mobilize, it's an investigative documentary that actually looks into things that most people don't look at. And we know about all of these because we've seen vax, and we've seen Jeffrey Smith talk about GMOs, and we know that most people are unaware of the dangers, and we know that the curve of disease has steadily been going up. So what you don't know is probably the work in 20 years ago by Gandhi, who's showing cell phone radiation that penetrates the brain in a child that's basically going all the way through. And he's saying children have thinner skulls and smaller ears, so the distance radiation has to go is shorter. And we see these people always, always, always letting their children play with unprotected cell phones. So it penetrates the brain of an adult, it penetrates the brain of a child, and yet the penetration is far worse for a child. And so I don't know why that we're not being more preemptive, especially with children. Or maybe that's part of denial.
Well, you know what? I don't know if it's really denial, but we know that the human species learns everything by repetition, and we know that the thing that's repeated is that phones are good for you, they're fine for you, you need them, they're not as bad as you think. So everything is about repetition. So if you're going to be part of the majority and follow along with the herd, and you don't understand that the media, the government, they've all come together and realized that whatever they repeat enough, we're going to swallow. It's going to, even though we may question it a little bit, we let it go. We let it go because it's imprinted, it's downloaded, it's force fed into us, right? And the other thing is this: where are you going to get the information, Howie? Where are you going to find the real truth? You're not going to find the truth on all the media stations that are owned by the 60 some families that control all the money and the moving in the world and control the government right from the top all the way down. Because you know what? In a world that shouldn't have lack, we lack so much. We lack information. Supposedly we lack money. We lack air. We lack water. We lack food. We lack gasoline. They're always putting us into this lack thing, and it makes us feel stupid. You know what? Make people feel stupid enough, and they won't think for themselves, and that's where we're at.
Well, it may be the distraction. Magician, if you watch the left hand, you don't know what the right hand is doing.
That's right. Keep them busy. Keep them distracted.
And so all the evidence, a 2011 paper by Dr. Nora Volkow, 50-minute phone call, and all of a sudden glucose metabolism is affected, and brain activity is affected, and blood flow is affected. And the double-blind study showed that, there's blood flow being affected in areas distal, away from where the phone was. And so this reality is that things are going on no one knows about. There was Gurdjieff Gandhi, and her paper was that genetic damage from mobile phones. And if you look at the micronuclei in the red blood cells, which is it's a cancer marker, right? It's a pre-marker for cancer. 10 years usage, you see them. You see them. And you'll see them when the slides are matched. And Dr. Martin Blank and heat shock proteins, when a cell's in trouble, a cell calls for help and it releases heat shock proteins. And there's 20 different ones. And the cells, when talking on a mobile phone, the cells are releasing them. And then there's Dr. Siegel-Sadetsky, and she found an increase in parotid gland tumor and salivary gland tumor. And where are people holding the phones? And then we have Vinny Carana, who no one listened to, 2009, and he came up with cell phone radiation is long-term. I mean, we haven't even hit it yet. Is long-term. Its effects on the brain are compounded by other simultaneous long-term exposure from radio, television, transmitter stations, cordless phones, base stations. So a cordless phone is twice as bad as a cell phone because you have a base station and you have the actual phone and Wi-Fi. And so the link between brain cancer and mobile phone usage should no longer be taken as a myth. And then we look back at Lions Zing, and what they're showing is peripheral blood lymphocytes, DNA breakage. Now, they could say, well, it's non-ionizing radiation, doesn't do anything. DNA breakage that was equivalent to 1,600 chest X-rays. And so, the reality that we have is that we know that exposure is not good. And Dr. Gandhi, again, Gursajik Gandhi, and I sat down across the desk from her in Amritsar, India, and interviewed her. And she said, it affects physiological, neurological, cognitive, and behavioral changes. So what's not being affected? And they've tied it to, the side of the head you hold your phone on is the increase in tumors.
Wow.
Acoustic neuroma increase as well. The antenna increased tumor side. And so Henry Lai, he was a professor at bioengineering at Washington University. He discovered the DNA breakage. And then, so Motorola said they did the same experiment. We did the same experiment. There's no DNA breakage. And they were trying to come after him, have the paper pulled. Paper wasn't pulled. And he said, I'm a tenured professor. This is real. Why would I fake this? And then, because you never mess with a tenured professor, he looked at all the studies and he found that if the industry funded it, 28% had an effect and 72% had no effect. Non-industry funded, 67% had an effect and 33% had no effect. But look at it this way. Even when they were trying to show no effect, they found an effect. So here's the facts. Every 100 hours of cell phone use increases your risk of brain cancer by 5%. Every year of cell phone use increases your risk of brain cancer by 8%. So after 10 years of use, there's a 280% increased risk of brain cancer. And these are all papers. So if you start as a teenager and you get into adult life, you have a 420% increased risk of brain cancer. We're not there yet because in 1990, there were 1 million phones in use in the US. Now there's 400 million. So Karolinska Institute, don't use it before bed. You won't sleep well. You won't get into your REM sleep cycles. It's not going to go well. You'll exhibit ADHD symptoms. And now we come to the biggie. And the biggie is when we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. So we know that Alzheimer's is based on three things for the diagnosis. It used to be post-mortem, but now we know that neurofibril tangles, inflammation, and tau protein peptide deposits, so protein deposits in your brain. So Leif Selford, Karolinska Institute, he found that when talking on a cell phone for 2 minutes, your blood-brain barrier opens. So think about the guys who like to have and the women who like to have a cigarette while 4,000 different chemicals, talking on their cell phone. What are they doing to the incidence? And there's another link to MS. So then, as they always like to test, they said, "Nah, we did the experiment. It's not true. It didn't happen." Of course, when Leif Selford injected the mice, he injected the carotid artery. And injecting carotid artery, in 2 minutes we had that change. When they did the experiment, they injected it in the abdomen. And of course, it didn't show in 2 minutes. It might have taken 8 or 10. And, there's just so many papers. I mean, men all carry their cell phones in their front pocket, right next to genitalia. And there's 25 papers on mobile phones and sperm count. Dr. DeKoon Lee, epidemiologist, he wired up 1,000 pregnant women, and he found with an intermittent 16 milligauss magnetic field pulse, double the risk of miscarriage. So you're carrying a smartphone, you're increasing your risk of exposure, you're increasing your risk of brain cancer, brain tumors, and Hardell and Karlberg and all the boys out of Sweden. And now what's happening, and this is interesting, is that law firms are lining up people for radiation lawsuits. And they're saying, If you have a brain tumor, and cell phone manufacturers fail to warn users from dangerous and hazardous frequencies, well, guess what? In the very small print that you cannot read, what does it say? Do not hold this against the body. But there are solutions, because you know what? We're not sure who to blame. Do you blame the phone manufacturer? Do you blame the provider? Do you blame the user? I mean, and we know that 90 to 95 or 85 to 96% of all disease is due to environmental causes. So I sat down, I was in Seoul, Korea, talking with the head of Biological Sciences Division of Samsung, a very large manufacturer. And he said to me, he said, Dr. Fisher, it will take them 20 years to determine whether or not this is real. It will take them a subsequent 20 years to determine whether it's the phone manufacturer, it's a little battery powered device, the provider, 1900 megahertz, no one knows what it is, 850, your body doesn't know, or the user who are providing information at 0 to 100 hertz, which may be the issue. So if anyone says they've got a blocker does not work. And why does a blocker not work? Because a blocker cannot work, or your phone wouldn't work. And we do know the frequency devices are good, but they still allow damage to occur. Noise fields are extremely effective. So what can you do? You turn off your Wi-Fi. If I look now, I'll see 25 networks around my home. So if I turn off mine, I don't know where the towers are, but I know that there will be information passing right through my home. So that's not going to work. Get rid of your smart meter. Good luck with that. I'd say protect it, and never use a mobile phone. Doesn't matter, because someone else has a mobile phone that is transmitting information that's coming through. Move north of the Arctic Circle. It might work, but I think they've got all those radar stations there. So what can we do? Well, there is a solution. There is a solution, and the U.S. Army started looking at the solution because there were some incidents with their former embassy in Moscow where they were being irradiated, and they had to rebuild and put lead shields in the walls. And of course, lead shields in the walls, and none of your information transmission will work. So the law of conservation of energy states that energy can either be created or transformed, or destroyed, but transformed. So spatially coherent electromagnetic noise is a noise field, and this will make non-ionizing radiation invisible to your body. And it all started in 1986 with Litowitz at Catholic University of America, where he found that we can put a field out that eliminates the damage. And so cells, if they're open to detecting something, they react to it. Our body responds. If you don't know, you don't know. Space station is orbiting. You can't look at it because we can't visually pick it up. So spatially coherent temporally random noise fields superimposed onto ELF or EMR or any radiation that's non-ionizing will mask it from the body. So noise fields function by interrupting the constant electromagnetic radiation wave from being detected by the receptors in the cellular membrane. And research has gone on at Columbia, it's gone on in Denmark, it's gone on Catholic University of America, University of Western Ontario, University of Washington, and some of the noise fields have been patented. And so we're going to talk about portable noise fields because it's a fractal geometric piezoelectric liquid crystal that eliminates the effects because it's invisible to the body. So we have the information carrying wave, then we have a random wave, and when the two come together, your body can't pick it up. And so the easiest explanation that I have for this superposition of electromagnetic oscillations to make it invisible is I played hockey. I played a lot of hockey. I've set a few referees in my day, and so they blow the whistle. When they blow the whistle right in your ear, you get pain, you get inflammation, and neurological deficits. That's why all the rockers who played loud music are going deaf. What happens if we switch that to a dog whistle? There's still the frequency, there's still the waveform, but there's no loud noise because we can't detect it. There's no subsequent inflammation or neurological deficit. So that's what noise fields do. And the most interesting part is that we're unaware of all of it.
Dr. Fisher, before we go any further, everyone, I want to show you Dr. Fisher and myself, when something happens, we truly are on it right away. We were on this whole cell phone thing over 20 years ago, weren't we? And this is what we use. If you take a look right here, this here is exactly what he's talking about. This little
Noise field polymer, and Dr. Wolfe, we'll go into that, okay? And you show that again near the end, and I'll tell you when to show that, because let me show them what that little thing does that no one can believe. So we talked about heat shock proteins, and we talked about when cells are damaged, and we talked about them sending the message to the next cell. There's something called gap junction intracellular communication, and so when we stress a cell with cell phone usage, it sends out a signal. When we use a noise field disc like the one you just showed, there's no signal help me because the damage is not there. So the magnetic noise fields eliminate the effect of irradiation by EMF. So, and there's Lidowitz has written several papers on it with chick embryos, and we can see the noise field being formed, and there'll actually be some slides that show the noise field polymer fractal matrix coming up. You can see it reacting to the ambient radiation that we have, and you can see what it does. And there are many, many papers about how it modulates the signal from perception, but does not affect the signal, does not affect the signal that you're receiving. And when you look at the noise field, and you'll see the noise field in one of the images, it's very potent. Kirlian photography shows you this. And so we've done thermography, and we've done thermography in several places on the thermographic evaluation of noise field. And people will be shocked. People will be shocked when they see how much you're lighting up. So we did one at the National Institute in India, and you can actually see on the slides, and I hope that the slides that we put in there, where the control is, and it's just slightly red in the ear, and then talking for over a half an hour on the cell phone, you can actually see the outline of the cell phone, and then rest period, control again, and then protect it, and you can see virtually nothing. Now, when Dr. Linda Fickus did it, she's a medical thermographer out of Hawaii. We see the control, the entire face lights up. And after the entire face lights up, when we do it again with the control of the noise field disc on, it's even better than the control. So the reality when we compare it, it's like, wait a second. Well, yeah, because there's a positive frequency in the polymer as well. And when we did the same experiment using a noise field on the peripheral blood lymphocyte, you'll be able to see that exposed with no protection, comet tail, DNA breaks. Exposed with protection, no breaks. Live blood, we've both seen a lot of live blood. I've written a couple of papers on live blood control, talk on a phone, erythrocyte aggregation. So you don't even know how it's going to get in a capillary. You don't know how that's going to occur. When we put the noise field disc in place, nothing. So when we compare the control and with the disc in place, it's amazing. Another one on the dark field, we see that the technology affects oxygen distribution, transportation, removal of carbon dioxide, pH, nutrient delivery, and we look again, and here's 10 slides that you'll see in my paper that was published that all show significant aggregation, significant. And then every time with the noise field in place, it's virtually better than the control. And blood flow in the brain. We heard earlier about Volkov's paper of being affected. Well, we can actually see it, and we have the experiment right here of blood flow being improved in the brain. It's being impeded when there's non-ionizing radiation from phone usage, and it's alleviated and actually made better when the protection is in place. Now, this will be the most interesting one, I believe. And this is gliomas. And gliomas have been documented. That's the brain tumor you're going to get. This is the brain tumor. It's going to be a glioma. So we grew astrocytes in the lab in California, put them in a petri dish, and in the petri dish, we also, and this is a published paper, it was an Explorer, we put one in the incubator to give us our control. And this is over 10 years ago this was published. Over 10 years ago, and no one's heard of this. But the incidence of brain tumors is climbing. It's climbing. There'll be denial because of other factors, but it's climbing. So we put a petri dish on the phone, and we played information for 60 minutes. Then we took that dish, and that was our second one. And we saw the change in the number of astrocytes. And then we took what you showed on your phone, a different version of it, and yours is the Infinity. This one was the Amret. Infinity is the German one, and played the same information for 60 minutes, put it in the incubator. So the reality is this, that from the control, there was a 10.71% decrease in the number of astrocytes that were killed off with an unprotected phone. With the protected phone, there was almost an 18%, 17.85% increase in astrocytes. So basically, almost 29%. Almost a 29% swing in the number of astrocytes. So, Darrell, do you want more astrocytes, functional brain cells, or less? I think it's kind of obvious. And then we came across things we couldn't even explain with EEGs and cell phone usage. And is it an artifact? Is it not an artifact? And if it is an artifact, why is it that when we put the noise field in place, it went back to look very much like the control? So we can't explain it. And specific absorption rate, this shouldn't even have worked because this is not a human. This is on specific absorption rate is done on Sam, the dummy, and it even decreased it. And of course, Sam was built to be a 6 foot, 200-pound U.S. military head structure, as opposed to the average person who does not weigh that. And then there's an MRET noise field generator, which does 30 feet in all directions. And then there's the MRET Russian portable passive noise field protection. And then there's the Infinity. And you're using the Infinity, which is German passive portable noise field protection. And hold yours up again, Darrell. Hold yours up.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, this is 6.5 feet. You can't see the angle there. It is 6.5 feet in every direction. I have one on my headboard. There's one on the computer. There's one on my phones. There's two in my wallet as I fly through airports. So there's other things we can't explain. I did an experiment where we pulled blood, and we irradiated the pulled blood while it was still, fresh out of the body, and we found that in the control, everything is normal, and then the lymphocytes, when we had unprotected, the lymphocytes were in a battle, and the white blood cells they went down, and then when we protected them, there was nothing. The granulocytes, I didn't know anything was going on. Lymphocytes didn't know anything was going on. So we don't even know how to explain that. But understand that from the day we're in utero to as we are now today, everything is bioaccumulation. And as Deborah Davis says, genes give us the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. And remember again that 85 to 96% of all disease is due to environmental causes. And so noise shields are the most effective.
And
And
that's
the
and that
late, go
yeah,
ahead,
I
go
can
ahead,
just
sorry.
say that's why we brought this on, everybody. And you know what? When you actually start using this, like everybody says, you won't feel the heat coming off into your head. You won't have the irritation. And go look at the information on our store, and you'll find it under Cell Guard. It's called a Cell Guard. All right. So, it's the smallest things sometimes make the biggest differences, eh, Dr. Fisher?
Oh, absolutely. And as the late Dr. Martin Blank said, um, and he was a double PhD, Columbia and Cambridge, people have to realize that just because you don't see it or feel it doesn't mean it isn't having an effect. Many of these are slow acting and bioaccumulating. And what I say is if we wait until all the mechanisms and latency periods for cancer and disease develop are 100% established, it'll be too late. Protect yourself and your loved ones today. And the reality is that, you know, I don't know what else to call it. I know there are several other ones out there. Many are just frequency devices. But guarding yourself from your cell phone, yeah. And the question really becomes, aren't we guarding ourselves from ourselves? Because we're the ones talking. So does a car parked in a parking lot get into an accident or cause an accident? No. So if it's not the cell phone, because it's only a little battery powered device. If it's not the provider, because their body, the carrier wave, our bodies don't understand that. So we have to take the responsibility of transmitting data, transmitting photos, transmitting information. So we have to take the responsibility for that. So we have to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. Everybody, how you'll see on TV they have like Shark Week, or they have some type of week of movies. What we're going to be doing, as you'll see, we already had Dr. Magda Havas on. Dr. Fisher's on. We're doing all this week, and we're going to be having also Peter Webb on. We're also going to be having my Blue Light 5G special run as well. Okay, so we're also going to be showing you another one. We're going to be putting a whole group of great lecturers together this week. So you want to make sure that when you see all the information coming from different people, it's all the same story, that you need to protect yourself. And you'll see it coming from different angles, but it all comes down to the same thing. And that is that we are light energy frequency human beings. We are electromagnetic, and frequencies matter. Okay. And these frequencies are either healing you or they're tearing you apart. And they're the silent killer. Right, Dr. Fisher?
Absolutely. The invisible threat.
Yes, the invisible threat. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the invisible threat. And you know what? It doesn't take a lot of money to protect yourself. And the thing is that you'll feel it. You'll feel it working for you.
Absolutely.
So, what would you like to leave everybody with?
Basically, that it's up to us, and it's up to the adults to protect the children, and it's up to the adults to protect themselves. No one is coming to protect you because they're still in the debate that's going to take another 20 to 30 years. And as the head of biological science division in Samsung said, in 40 years, we won't be communicating by cell phones anymore.
Wow. And the other thing is, I want everybody to understand that you can take it or leave it, but your government doesn't work for you. So if they did work for you, like Dr. Fisher said, you wouldn't be able to buy the most carcinogenic chemicals almost every street corner. And it's pretty evident that what he said is the truth. Whether, it's an uncomfortable truth, understand this, that, buyer beware and question authority. And the invisible creates the physical, and you don't want to have a physical illness just because you had blinders on, or because you thought, well, everybody else is doing it, so why can't I? So again, I'm going to show it to you because it doesn't cost much and it's well worth it. And how many parents out there have children that have cell phones? This can be stuck on, it stays on, it's not in the way of anything. How many children, teenagers, go to bed with their phone on? They don't turn it on airplane mode because they don't believe you. They don't. They don't even put their phone on away from them. They keep their phone beside them because their phone is their best friend. They're totally addicted to it. They're more addicted to their phone than they are to their family. And tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that families have their act together. You can go to any restaurant and see everybody in the family have a phone except for the young child. The young child will have what? They'll have a game, electronic digital gaming device, or they'll have an iPad in there, or they'll have mommy or daddy's phone because that's now the new babysitter. So at least if you're looking for ways to keep your kids busy, you better protect them. Right, Howie?
Absolutely. Who's going to protect your children if you don't?
Yep, that's right. And I mean, you want to put these little devices on your computer, on your pads, and the other thing is, I really hope you aren't using a baby monitor. And if you are, order one out of Europe where when the baby cries, it only comes on when it's on. But if you are, you better have one of these on the top of all four points of that baby crib, or your baby's getting bombarded with radiation. So you can put these anywhere. You can put these on your TV. Give them a few places where they can put them, would you, Howie?
Oh, absolutely. On a headboard, because you're sleeping there 8 hours a night, and whether you have your cell phone or not, is essential of everyone. I would get a bracelet or a necklace for children because you're not going to be around them all the time. Every telephone that has Wi-Fi communication, every television has Wi-Fi communication, baby monitors, cordless phone base stations. The list goes on. There's no one that doesn't need 10. But because safety is inexpensive.
Thank you very much. So I want everybody to understand again, you can go to our website, go to our store, and you can check these out. They're called the Cell Guard, Doc of Detox Cell Guard. They're easy to use. And also check out the other shows. If you missed Dr. Magda Havas, she was on just prior, okay? Make sure you watch that. You might want to go back and watch that show and see what she's got to say, and then come back and rewatch Dr. Fisher's show. And then we've got 3 more shows. They're right in line. Boom, 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 boom. Because we want you to get the whole picture on EMF and on blue light, because that is your God-given right. Dr. Fisher, I want to thank you for joining me. But before I let Dr. Fisher go, everybody, I will be lecturing with Dr. Fisher on March the 7th, just outside of Orlando. So if you live in the Orlando area, Tampa area, you want to come and see me lecture. I'll also be doing treatments and consultations down there. That's March 7th of 2020. All right, we'll keep you posted. Dr. Fisher's going to be lecturing, and you can tell what kind of lecture he's going to give. And there's going to be other lectures there as well, and it's not going to be expensive. How do you like that? So when the price is right, just know that you're worth it. And Dr. Fisher, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Darrell. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Have the best day of your life, and thanks for all the work you do, and thanks for the 20 books that you've written, okay? All right, so everybody, make a note, everyone. Every Monday and Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we have a live Doc Talk Q&A where all your questions, okay, and I mean all your questions, will be answered live and in person by me and my co-host. We will give you the most powerful personal take action steps to all your questions that no one else seems to have an answer. You can join us live on Facebook for this show, Instagram, YouTube, or Doc of Detox Show. And guess what, guys? Every show is time-stamped, so you can go to the show and watch the whole show, or go directly to your answer, get your answer, and you don't have to hang around and watch the whole show. Okay? But please let your friends and family know, okay? Let them know they now have a choice to become the master of their life and the light for the whole family. All right? Please leave a like on this show if you enjoyed what was discussed, Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the notification bell to never miss a show. You won't want to miss what we have in store for you, because guess what? We are here to give your power back, okay? So look at it. It's like this, guys. 3, 2, 1. You got this. Snug as a hug. A nice kiss to let yourself know that you're going to love, protect, respect, and honor yourself today, because guess what? Buyer beware. And understand, as Dr. Fisher said, environment is everything. So look what's around you. Look what you say. Who hangs around you? What do you eat? What do you drink? And what do you participate in? Okay? Because guess what? There's a brave heart in all of us. And you need to unleash that brave heart, because your family's looking for a hero. And that hero is probably you. So goodbye, and God bless everyone. And check out the other shows this week. You're going to love them. Bye now. If you're looking for life-saving and life-changing information, well, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to click and subscribe. Stay connected.